All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for episode 12 of the Hops and Bops podcast. Wow. As always, I am producer Tom.
And most of the time, not always, I'm Joe.
I'm still Mike.
Yeah.
A solid 80% of the time.
Yeah,
still Mike.
Solid.
And today we have brought some albums and some beers to the table. Well, only one of each. We have Blood Sugar Sex Magik by the Red Hot Chili Peppers, a classic. And we have Tröegs. Is that how you pronounce it? Tröegs is the
Mad Elf Ale.
Mad Elf Ale. Yes.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
Let's
All right.
form
This
in.
is
another bottle, not another can.
Yeah, another bottle.
And surprisingly, we all have elf-themed glasses.
Yes, we all do.
All
Elf
three
the
of
movie.
us. Yes.
We can thank Joseph Scovill for these.
Oh.
He had them in his basement, and then he wanted to get rid of shit. And apparently, when you get rid of shit, it comes to my house.
Well, there you go, because this fits right in with our beer.
Man, that's got some.
Yeah, makes
It's
sense.
got some color.
To it. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Jesus, it looks like root beer.
Oh yeah, it's a bit of a darker.
This is dark.
It is a.
Oh yeah,
it's
it's like caramel almost.
So it's brewed with chocolate malt, cherries, honey, and peppercorn. Now, when I think peppercorn, I think of when I think peppercorn, I think of salad dressing. But
Yeah. Oh, that Parmesan
peppercorn. Yeah.
Oh, that shit's
so
awesome.
good.
That slaps.
So good.
Anytime they say Parmesan peppercorn,
slaps.
It does.
slaps.
Oh, it slaps.
It does slap.
It slaps.
Yep. Anytime they say that, I'm like,
It's instant.
say no more.
If you don't lead with that, you got an issue.
I know, right? And if it's the last one, you just wasted your breath. Because that's the one I
And
saw.
my fucking time. So
man.
the Mad Elf by Tröegs. So if we're being transparent here,
Yes.
the beer is not a little bit, but if we are personally being transparent, I was looking for the Snowdrift Porter, is a vanilla porter from 𝙈𝙼𝙙 𝙀𝙡𝙛. However, at the time of our recording, which is now, not when this airs,
Right.
it's not out yet.
Right.
About a week or two early.
Goddamn.
And however, I did happen to see this. It's a once-a-year beer. I guess only around this time it comes out. Like I said, chocolate malt, cherries, and honey are really the primary flavors in it.
I get a lot of the honey. That makes sense.
Some notes of cinnamon, raw honey, cocoa. We kind of joked on the previous podcast when we mentioned it, but it is made in Hershey, Pennsylvania. That's where Tröegs is. So I'd be curious. I tried looking it up. I couldn't really find. Be curious if they use actual Hershey's chocolate for it or not.
That'd be really
Thought
cool.
That'd be pretty interesting.
Yeah, 11% for this beer.
11%.
Did not see that till after I bought it.
That's a lot of percent.
Yeah. That wins the highest percentage so far.
So far,
Yes.
it's got the ruby red color that they say.
Yeah.
It is an ale, brewed with Pilsner, Munich, and chocolate grains. Like 7 different types of cherries. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, you can definitely taste it.
Yeah, but I didn't realize there were that many cherries. Am I wrong? And then spicy Belgian yeast. The one thing I will say with cherry is a very hard flavor to do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because you tend to get cough medicine. Like that's what you taste.
Yeah.
Oh, this cherry, whatever. Oh, thank you for my cough medicine. Like it's just
like
awful.
a cough drop almost.
I will say that the cherry taste you taste, but it's not overpowering.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it actually does not taste bad with that cherry aspect.
Yeah, it's very subtle.
Yep.
Now, Mike, I don't mean to put you on the spot at all.
Go for it.
It says next to the alcohol per volume, it says IBU 15.
Yes.
Do you know what that means?
IBU actually stands for International Bitterness Unit Scale.
Oh,
does.
okay.
Yeah, so it focuses strictly on the bitterness. So it actually has nothing to do with the alcohol content. So hopefully you can cut the rest of that out so that it'll sound like a moron.
I'll work my magic.
Yeah, please.
So is 15 relatively low or
That was
high?
also going to be my question.
Because it's not that
Seems
it's not
high.
very bitter.
No,
but
I'm going to
it's-
say 15 is low. So I'll use an example.
well,
If
fuck
we
me.
go if we go back to last episode, we talked about 𝙎𝙧. And 𝙎𝙧 had an 8.5 for ABV. So ABV meaning the alcohol by volume. However, the IBUs was 85.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
And that was a little bit hoppier and a little more bitter of a beer.
Yeah.
Compared to some of the ones we've tried in the past.
Okay.
So being at a 15, I would personally say that that's a relatively low IBU.
Yeah.
Not quite as bitter.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's not an IPA, it's an ale. So you don't have that real hoppy flavor to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's not even like a double IPA either, where you kind of have that very first hit of like the strong alcohol taste.
No.
But I really enjoy the kind of flavors that they toss in. You get the honey, you get the cherries, you get that kind of chocolatey kind
little
of
hint
infusion.
of that, yeah.
It's a very unique flavor that you don't really get, and it's
Yes.
again, like you said in a couple episodes before, it's very dangerous to have because
Yeah.
you don't really taste the 11%.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
not
It's
at
going to
all.
hit you right away, though, for sure.
No, I drank one the other night, kind of pre-gaming for this Friday, and it was my third beer of the night, and it was my last beer of the night. Like I could feel it. I actually had one yesterday too, after a day of beveraging, and it definitely did its job.
Yeah.
But again, it's a good beer. I was pleasantly surprised with it. I didn't really know what to expect. One, because it had that cherry chocolate. I was like, man, is this going to be super heavy, or is this going to be a beer that I'm not even going to want to finish a whole one, a 12-ounce bottle? But I think it went down pretty smooth. I don't think I would be drinking this all evening long. I definitely one or two in an evening is more than enough. Not even because of the ABV, but just because of the flavor. It's a very, very strong flavor.
Yeah.
It's not a beer that you can just throw them back. This is a sip.
Oh, yeah.
This is a sipper.
Yeah.
It's
a sipper.
It does taste good, though. It's more of a dessert beer, which I like to
Okay.
throw that term out there a lot, is like kind of your nightcap, your dessert beer. You have one and you're done. You kind of end on it. But I was pleasantly surprised, honestly. I was a little nervous. I'm not a dark beer guy. I mean, I'll drink them, but I can't drink a lot of them. I'm not a huge dark beer person.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge flavor, like throwing a lot of different, especially cherry. Cherry's not one of my favorite flavors.
Yeah.
So the second I see that, I get a little bit, not sure. But when you see that it's a once-a-year beer, you give it a shot, because we're not going to do it again until next year.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, so and I was happy with it. I'm drinking out of my elf glass with my Mad Elf beer, and
Yeah, me too.
I think it all worked out.
As the holiday season's upon us,
It's approaching.
For me, I appreciate all the different flavors, and I'm glad that we're doing a beer like this, because we haven't yet. But this isn't one that I would gravitate towards.
Okay.
In those like box of chocolates that you get, and you have to like look at the picture on the back.
Being allergic to nuts, I refuse to even attempt to eat those, because I can the map with the chocolate
Never lines up. You fuck it up.
I never figure it
But
out.
anyway, with that map, like the one I always save to last is the chocolate that has the cherry in it, and
Yeah.
this
See,
is
but
kind of that.
I
for me.
love chocolate covered cherries. How crazy is that?
Oh, yeah.
I will
Really?
eat an entire
Yeah,
box
it's
of those in one sitting.
Yeah, when it's the fruit by itself, it's a bit different than the
Yeah.
flavoring of something else with cherries.
It's not really in my flavor profile.
Okay, lollipop deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's transition a bit over
Shall
to the album of choice.
Red cherries, cherry peppers, red hot chili peppers.
We're
Holy
stretching
shit.
a little
Awful.
bit.
Yeah, I'm
It's
trying.
It's a
here.
bit of
I'm
a
trying.
reach, but I liked it.
Yes, the album of choice this episode is Blood Sugar Sex Magic by the Red Hot Chili Peppers. This is another one of my personal favorites. Had to bring it to the podcast. It's a great album. It's, as a band, their fifth album. It's 17 tracks, released in 1991.
Yes.
Those are the stats. And it's also produced by the God Almighty Rick Rubin, which I feel anything he touches is just gold. He works in the rock world, the alternative world, the rap world, hip-hop world, and he was the producer on this. And for me, it shows, because I think it's just a beautifully made album. A little fun fact, was recorded in an LA mansion that was once inhabited by Harry Houdini.
Ah.
Yes. So they actually chose to record this record in that mansion in isolation rather than rent out studio space and
Yeah.
be pressured by that timeline. They were in the mansion. They didn't leave, except the drummer Chad Smith. He left. He needed like a break every night, so he like left and went home to his wife and everything. But John Frusciante, Flea, and Anthony Kiedis stayed in that mansion for I think the 6 weeks or whatever it took to record the album, and they were just committed to making this album. And so I learned a lot about this album by watching. It's kind of like a making of documentary. It's called Funky Monks after one of the tracks.
Yep.
And they filmed footage of them recording the album and being in the mansion and interviews and things like that. And you really pick up a lot. You see what they did to make the songs the way they are. And I thought that was really cool. You also see how fucked up John Frusciante was. He was just hopped up on all sorts of stuff. The things he was saying about sex and things like that was just wild. Like, but then he rips out the guitar and just wails away. It's pretty amazing. So I have other things to say, but I want to rotate around.
So in terms of an album experience, I was never really that big into them, but I certainly am a huge fan of the big singles off of Red Hot Chili Peppers. I would consider myself a fan, obviously, but I have never listened to this album all the way through.
Oh, okay,
kind of similar to like Thriller or something like that.
Actually, agreed.
Yeah.
I've listened to most of this album, but not all of it.
Okay. Exactly, yeah. So you kind of get that feeling of an album experience that I've never heard before.
Yeah.
I also did not know they debuted in 1984.
Yes.
Seems very early.
Which
to
is
me.
actually one of my favorite albums.
Yeah.
Their debut? Really?
The self-titled?
Love that album.
Yeah.
Huh.
I just think it shows their raw, like what they wanted to be.
Yeah.
Even though everybody shit on it, including the producers.
Yeah.
Because I read Anthony Kiedis' autobiography there,
Scar Tissue. Yeah.
Which was a great book. And again, I don't read much, but I read that. And there was, when they were in the studio for that album, they saw notes that they weren't supposed to see. And it literally just had like, shit, sucks, this is awful. Like next to all of their songs
Of the debut album
they were recording. It was like a big mess.
Really?
But his father, what was it? I don't know if it was Vegas or LA or one of the strips out there. It was where he grew up with his father. And he literally was in nightclubs while people were fucking doing drugs at like 10 years old.
Jesus.
Yeah, he had one hell of a life.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah, but this album, a lot of their earlier stuff was more. They had like the grittier guitar, more on the punk end.
Yeah,
I would agree.
But this album, they went more melodic, and you can hear a lot of the funk elements coming through, which they're just so well known for.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of that changes on Mother's Milk, which I think is a fantastic album.
Great album.
But I think that's their kind of transition point where they kind of, like you said, incorporate a lot of that funk, ditch a lot of that kind of punk elements.
Definitely, for sure. I love the all the transitions and the background noises. Like I'm big on listening to albums with headphones on. And
of course.
You could hear all the talking in between songs, and it almost feels like a lot of the tracks are one big long track, like they're all connected.
Yes.
And that to me is raw. I love that. I love that. When bands record albums and it's just here's a song, here's a song, here's a song, here's a song. Like, that kind of loses it for me. This, they kept a lot of that rawness. In
that
it.
kind of dead space in between, but it still kind of seems like you're with them in the studio.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And
So,
you feel like you're watching them play this album from beginning to end, like in front of you.
yeah. I like to listen to them with the album track list in front of me, so like I can write the name of the song and everything. So today, though, I was just working in the house doing some stuff, so I had my Amazon Alexa playing the album, but I had my phone with the track list in front of me, and I found myself at certain times having that exact issue of like, did the next song start yet, or am I still on this song? And then I would actually have to play it on my phone to like catch up to where I was. It was weird, like because I wasn't fully focused in just the album. I was kind of multitasking, but it was kind of interesting to that point. Like I could hear some of those differences.
Right, and to Tom's point earlier about being an album experience, I think this is a great example of that because, it has the huge hits on it. It has Under the Bridge, Give It Away, Suck My Kiss. Like those are huge Chili Pepper songs, but in terms of an album, like I can't really talk about a lot of these songs without mentioning the other songs or the song previous that led into it because of that
Yes.
one little like bass intro that led into the next song makes the song. So like I'm huge on that. You know, the big album experience and you know, recording it in a mansion was great. This is a very sentimental album for me. This is like one of the first albums I've ever listened to that I played drums along to from beginning to end. I would sit behind my kit, put on headphones, start track one, and go all the way through and play through everything. And I used to work at this drum studio that I took lessons at, Jim Royal Drum Studio, Bridgeport, Connecticut. Shout out. And when it was my shift to work, they would always have these instructional videos playing. And their drummer, Chad Smith, made a instructional video called the 𝙎𝙜𝙚 Rhythm Method. And on that, he and Flea jammed to a lot of songs on this album. And I loved it. Every time I worked, I put that on. It was VHS tape. I put it in. And I loved it so much that I bought it myself. And I realized before recording today, I actually rewatched it. And I watched it the other night. And
thanks for the invite.
Sorry.
I didn't get one.
Sorry.
No. That's cool, though. I was busy anyway.
Yeah, I apologize. But it's funny how a lot of what Chad talked about in that video, like I actually picked up on as a drummer, and I still do today.
Yeah.
So that, and you know, the way he taught how to play the songs and showed his parts and how they write their songs really stuck with me. And I always think about that in those days when I'm listening to this album. So it was huge for me.
You get that nice nostalgia. That's so nice.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I'm personally not the biggest fan of certain like rap rock crossovers. I think on this and in general, I feel like they do it pretty well.
Yeah.
But like they're one of the big exceptions. Like them and like Rage Against the Machine are like two of my favorites.
Yeah.
But I feel like a lot of like that kind of late 90s, early 2000s kind of like style of rap rock is very, very dated and not my kind of thing. But like you said, there's so many good singles on this. So many of their quintessential discography is on this. But I think one of the major like problems this album has, it's an hour and 13 minutes.
It's long.
It's too long.
It's too long. Yeah.
And actually, a lot of their albums are this long, like 15 tracks, 17 tracks, which I'm surprised at. But
if this album ended at song 13,
which was what?
Which was Apache Rose Peacock. And the reason I say that one is I thought Naked in the Rain was a good song. Had a cool bass and had a bass solo.
Yes.
Which I thought was really cool.
Yes.
And Apache Rose Peacock musically wasn't great. However, lyrically was really cool, talking like about like the random things of New Orleans and different things like that. So I thought it was really cool. After that, I didn't think there was a single song that warranted being on this album.
Really?
I thought the last 4 songs could have just gone. I thought the last song was not even in the slightest what they should have ended with.
I 100% agree.
Yeah.
I mean, Clapton covered that song. It's an old blues song.
Yeah.
And I thought they did zero justice on that tune.
Yeah.
And then to end, I get
That's
it
their
because
humor.
I get it because of the name
Yeah.
and like, you know, Red Hot and then Chili Peppers and the whole.
Yeah.
I thought that was just. I was like, that's how you ended end this
yeah.
album. Like, oh
Yeah. Well, actually, so that I don't consider a track on the album. It's almost kind of like a bonus track to me. They're Red Hot.
Yeah.
In the movie Funky Monks that I talked about, the making of doc, they actually recorded that outside, like on top of a hill, like overlooking the LA like skyline.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool. But and then Sir Psycho Sexy, not a fan of the song.
No.
I don't like it.
Awful.
Way too long.
Yeah, so that's actually my bottom track. But so I don't know. It's long, but you didn't like the greeting song or My Lovely Man?
I thought the greeting song was okay.
Yeah,
it was fast.
Okay.
It had more of that.
That's right. Exactly. I wrote it was faster. You know, but it was kind of becoming more similar at that point to kind of other songs. Didn't really stand out. And honestly, had the album ended one song earlier, I wouldn't have missed that song.
Makes sense.
That's kind of where I was at. You know.
Yep.
Yeah. I think for the most part, when an album kind of hits that hour mark,
Yeah.
it's not that you start to get tired of it, but a lot of the ideas that they're going for, unless they're super like intricate and like all over the place, they start to blend together.
Like Stadium Arcadium was long.
Yeah.
But it was 2 discs.
It was a double album.
Yeah.
And it worked. Honestly, it's a great album. It's a great double album.
Yeah.
It's got a different vibe for each disc.
Yeah.
You know, and I just felt like this one just like overstayed its welcome towards the end.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Makes sense. It's long, but for me, I don't know what songs I would eliminate because I love a lot of them. I love their groove.
Yeah, and I can see how that kind of appeals to you more because I feel like a lot of the instrumentation is the focal point of this album.
Oh yeah.
You hear a lot of the drums being very in your face and like prevalent, and a lot of the bass tones are very, very fat and heavy, and I feel like specifically on Funky Monks, you kind of had that very plucky, very fat bass and guitar sounds. Did you write?
I love the pluck.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's very like
slap. Well, with slap guitar, they're playing the guitar similar to a bass, plucking it.
Exactly, yeah. And so I feel like their performances kind of stand out the most. In terms of what you hear.
And this album as a whole just shows how tight the rhythm section is.
Definitely.
Chad Smith and Flea.
Yeah.
And again, just Will Ferrell. Yeah.
Will Smith.
Yeah. Being in that mansion together, it's just I love it. I love when I hear stories about that, like Foo Fighters for Wasting Light. They did it in the drum or in the garage. They did it in the mansion
garage.
Yeah, right. Secluded.
The mansion's garage.
I love that because to me it shows. It shows how much they worked on it together, and it wasn't just recorded in pieces in different studios around the country. And the guitarist came in for a week and did his parts, left, drummer came in. It wasn't that. They were together. And I love that. And I think it shows clear as day on this album.
Yeah. That kind of bonding that you kind of have to have if you put everyone in a group. It's like a big summer camp.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah. So that comes off in the performances.
And then we're kind of like talking about the end of the album first, but the song "My Lovely Man." I like that song. It's actually in memory of 𝙎𝙧𝙀𝙚. It was a in memoriam track to him.
Yeah.
And I thought it was cool. But when you listen to it, it doesn't sound like a remembrance track. Yeah. So I read the lyrics, pat in the back, and you realize how somber the lyrics are. You know. But when you listen to the song, it's like one of the most upbeat songs on the album. You would never know it, but it almost feels like it's the kind of remembrance song they probably wanted to make for 𝙎𝙧, because that's just kind of the band they are. So I thought it was a kind of cool dynamic there.
Yeah, so we want to go through kind of from the top, just kind of get a feel for it.
Yeah.
Power of Equality was a great opener in my opinion because it had a great bass line.
Oh, yeah.
And this is how I took that song. So their first album was super raw.
Yeah.
I mean, raw to the point where like they could have recorded it. Oh yeah, you know what I mean. Yeah. Raw, like they could have recorded it in a garage with a tape player, and like that was the album they put out. In a sense, kind of sloppy, but that's what they were going for. That punk feel, and then you go to an album all the way down like Stadium Arcadium, super refined, super produced, like great album.
Yeah.
But was just clean.
Right.
That song was like the combo of both.
Yeah.
It was like raw. It had that like funk bite to it, but it was also a well-produced song.
Yeah.
And so like it was a great opener for me. It was kind of a combination of where they started and where they were going, and this is what you got.
Agreed.
So I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, good way of putting it.
That's a great way to open the album for me too. You kind of have that cool filtered intro that kind of leads into the energetic grooves. It's all over it, and I think it's a pretty understated track in terms of like the grander things.
Yep.
I love the messaging behind the lyrics. That kind of power of equality sense. The bass was really funky, but the guitars were pretty heavy and on point. And it's a great track, great opener too. Sets the tone.
For sure.
It really did.
Yeah.
Yes. However, do you have anything to say? Sorry, I don't want to.
No. Again, like I said earlier, it's hard for me to like just talk about tracks specifically or individually on this. I value the album as a whole. So you may not hear me say specific things about specific tracks.
What I was going to mention, though, is the next track after this, I really do not like. If you have to ask.
Really?
I do not like it. It was just the same thing as
was
the Power
okay.
of Equality, but kind of slowed down. The vocals are really kind of like... I think his best moments on the album are when the vocalist has a lot of that energy. Not even when he's singing, but when he has a lot of that power behind him.
Yeah.
And he just felt like he was like asleep on
I
the track.
literally wrote that it was okay. It was kind of boring, and if it wasn't for the guitar solo, like that's literally what redeemed the song.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it was just
Right.
Kinda
Listen
there.
out for me. I love this song because I hear the drums,
yeah.
and it has a lot of ghost notes on the snare drum during the verse,
Okay.
and he's like filling out the sound, just from a technical standpoint.
Yeah.
But
I don't know,
I
I
listen to music differently.
Well, no, yeah, again,
yeah.
I just
I love
thought
this song.
that it was missing too much. Like it just
Yeah.
was. The guitar solo came in, and I was like, "Oh, finally, the song redeemed itself." But it still wasn't enough to make it like, "Wow, that's a great song."
Yeah.
And in terms of the track list of versus where it
Yeah,
falls,
1 and 2.
yeah, in between the intro and Breaking the Girl,
Yeah.
it just didn't mesh well for me. It just felt
Yeah.
very aimless.
Yeah, because then "Breaking the Girl" is like your standard style
Great
song.
song.
It's
Yes.
a song that most bands would write. You know what I mean? And you get the Chili Peppers, who are very plucky, funky kind of feel. It's not. It's very chord driven.
Yes.
But it's in 3/4, so it's like
Yeah.
all of a sudden it's like, hey, by the way, go fuck yourself. We're in 3/4 now.
Yeah.
Even though we're gonna write a normal song, but it's not normal. That's actually my sleeper, and I know it's a pretty well-known song, but it's not one of the big singles.
It was the fifth.
Yeah.
No, fourth single. If you have to ask,
Yeah.
was the fifth single.
Okay. I love this song. I personally
Great
think
song.
it's one of their best.
Absolutely.
Didn't we cover it back in the day?
We did for
Yeah.
a little
Yeah.
while. I'm a little upset that we stopped, but
I didn't sing it. Joe
you
did.
did. But it's just so good. It's
Yeah.
such a great song.
Drum part is one of my favorites.
Yep.
With the little toms.
Yep.
It's a
every time.
fun, and I actually even wrote it was a fun song to play.
Yeah.
Yep.
It really was.
Yep.
I will say one thing is I think the ending's a little dragged out. It
Yeah.
could have ended like
Yeah.
a little bit earlier because it just goes and goes and goes.
Yep.
But it's just, oh god, such a good song.
And I really like
Great
how...
lyrics.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Great lyrics.
I like how everything kind of continues to build. It kind of like steps itself up in terms of like the chords. It just kind of rises, and that kind of flow really keeps the track moving and makes it feel alive.
Definitely.
And all of that kind of build up kind of lets go on that really clanky like bridge that they have, where it
Yeah.
sounds like they're just
Yeah.
in pots and
Yes.
pans.
So they're in that movie Funky Monks. They're actually hitting brake drums, and there's a whole scene where they're playing the brake drums along to the track, and that's what you hear on the
Yeah, that's
actual
yeah.
track. Yeah, that's cool.
But yeah,
It
like-
reminds me of, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off,
Okay.
but what's the song on Stadium Arcadium where he has a huge percussion breakdown?
Humpty Bump.
Humpty Bump, yeah. And he's playing on all sorts of different instruments and
Yeah,
different percussion
definitely.
instruments. Same idea, though, just like a little more elaborate when they got to
Yeah.
Stadium Arcadium.
But then you wonder, like, why brake drums? But then when you hear the song, it like kind of makes sense because
Yeah.
it sounds like an alleyway kind of.
Yep.
Yep.
You know, good,
Yeah.
very good song.
And yeah, that's one of my favorites.
Yep.
And then that kind of leads into Funky
Oh
Monks.
God, Funky Monks.
I was a little thrown off by this track in the first few listens because the image of a funky monk was just very strange to me. Like, what is this track kind of going for?
Yeah.
But with multiple listens, the plucky guitar intro, like we mentioned before, the
Yes.
really loud snare hits,
Yep.
it really makes the sound very unique. And
Yeah.
it gives that kind of character to the band. You know, like you hear this song, you're like, oh, that's a Chili Peppers
Yeah.
song.
Yeah, they're just in unison. Like Flea and Chad are just locked in with one another, and then John puts his stuff over top. And,
Yep.
Yeah, it's just great. I think they refer to themselves as Funky Monks. I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
Because in the movie, John Frusciante referred to themselves as monks because they were in solitary in that
Yeah.
mansion. And
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
but they're funky, funky monks.
Okay,
Yeah.
that makes more sense.
I think that's where it came from.
Yeah, I like the song. I thought it was a good song. I really
Yeah.
enjoyed the plucking guitar, like that slap guitar feel. I thought it had a good solo. Overall, it was a solid song. I thought it dragged a little bit. It just was a little bit kind of like monotonous at some points, but overall, it was a solid song.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the ending of that has that kind of cool little bass tag
Yep.
Guitar tag that leads right into Suck My Kiss.
Suck My Kiss. I didn't mark it as my number one or my sleeper because it's just such a prominent song, but got to be one of the best songs on the album.
Definitely.
It's just so powerful.
I disagree.
I love it.
Ooh.
Wow.
It's not one of my favorites. Something about it, it's just, I don't know. I don't gravitate towards that song.
I've always
Chili
loved that
Peppers,
tune.
yeah.
I just thought it was such a good song.
Absolutely. I also want to give a quick shout out to Guitar Hero for introducing me to like 80% of all music as a kid. Because this was on one of them.
Love it, yeah.
I remember playing it so much and it just stuck in my head for so long.
Yeah, I love the chorus. Suck my kiss.
Yeah, the kind of
the
kind of bass driven a bit. Yeah,
for
it's,
sure.
Yeah, obviously a fantastic track.
It's kind of their first heavier song on the album.
Yeah.
Realistically, it's the first song where you're feeling the rock. You know, everything else has been very funk. You know, you kind of have Breaking the Girl, which is almost kind of like your classic heavier acoustic kind of a feel.
It's almost poppy.
And a little poppy. And then you have Suck My Kiss, which is just like their rock song.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
I like how the bass, the drum, and the guitar were all linked on the chorus. And
Yes.
Yeah.
Love
Yeah,
that song.
and from a musician standpoint, that's another great example of how locked in they were.
Oh yeah. That's one of the best examples of them being like very well connected. You can feel the chemistry
for sure
that they have
absolutely
in their solitary confinement.
Yep. You know, it's weird to think that shortly after this album came out, they started touring. Just Frusciante just upped and left. You know, and he coming in after 𝙆𝙜𝙚 died.
Yeah.
It's just weird to think that happened, and then Frusciante came back later on for Californication. But I love him. I love him as a guitarist.
He is a good guitarist, and he fits the band.
Yeah, definitely. Then you got Mellowship Slinky in B major.
My number one.
This is your number one?
Yep.
Wow.
This is my number one.
This is my sleeper. I love this song. This is your number one.
Yes.
Nice. Good to hear.
I love the intro.
Yep.
It is 100% Parliament Funkadelic.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
All the way Mothership Connection.
Yeah.
Like, think of that, and you have Mellowship, Slinky, and B minor. You have Mothership Connection, P-Funk, the bass, the guitar, the vocals, rhythm. Every single part of it is basically Red Hot Chili Peppers playing Parliament Funkadelic.
Yeah.
And I'm a huge... Maybe that's an album we go to later on because it's very different. It's old school funk, whatever. I love that album by P-Funk. And just the title, every part of this song was such... I don't want to say rip-off because it's not a rip-off. It's almost like an influence.
Tribute.
Yeah, tribute.
Yeah.
Exactly. And just unbelievable. It's just so good. So fucking good.
I love after the intro, you hear Flea's like... And that little transition piece and into the main groove.
Yeah, his fills are very on point for a lot of these tracks.
God.
Yeah. Oh yeah. This is one of my favorite songs on the album, for sure.
And it kind of shows off that like I don't want to say like goofy, but they're very kind of silly. In their kind of presentation.
I mean that was funk. Like it was fun. It was bouncy. It was entertaining and they just. Yeah, they just did it in this song.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, even the title, Mellowship, Slinky, and B major. Like
B minor, right?
Or
major.
Is it major?
Yeah.
Oh, my bad. I wrote it wrong. But still, just such a good song.
Yep, for sure. And then after that, you got The Righteous and the Wicked.
That's exactly
it.
I
literally one of those. Yep.
Okay, standard Chili Peppers.
Yeah. Right. I was right. Yeah. Yeah. It's another one of those. But then after that,
you Give It Away.
Yeah, especially with Give It Away after that.
Give It Away. But that's another example of if you hear the end of Righteous and Wicked, they continue the playing into Give It Away, and he says like crank it. Like the crank it you hear in Give It Away, like that's part of the song, but it's actually in the Righteous and the Wicked track. Like So I love that. And for Give It Away, that to me is my hands down favorite Chili Pepper song.
Yep.
Yeah.
I really like how when he says "give it away," it doesn't sound like he's saying "give it away." It sounds like it's one word. It sounds like going
"give it away."
Give it away.
Yeah.
Give it away.
His
really
inflection on his words is just.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. But when this song comes on, I'm like, yes, fuck yes.
Yeah, when you hear that drum intro,
it's their party song. It's their party song.
It's their party song.
That's literally what I wrote. Was that it's their party song. My only issue with "Give It Away" is it's overplayed. That's my only problem with that song. It is a great song. It's got a great bass line. It's got good guitar. It's got good drums. It's a party song. It's just like I'm just a little tired of hearing of it. Like that's just my problem with it.
Overplaying songs being overplayed never really bothers me.
Yeah.
Just because if it's a good song, it's a good song.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I take it. And this is that.
I kind of understand that. Like you can acknowledge that it's a great track.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah.
Yep.
But you don't want to hear it too much. Yeah.
No. After a while, I'm like, okay, there's other Chili Pepper songs that are awesome.
Yeah. But this one, I mean,
but it's good.
This one put it on the map.
Oh yeah. 100%.
This one and maybe Under the Bridge, which we'll get to in a couple.
Yep.
The title track. What do you guys think of that?
Worst song on the album.
Really?
Really?
Yeah. I thought it was very boring. The vocals were very eh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Other than there's that kind of guitar drum intro, I don't know. I found that it was very similar. I know Thomas wasn't a fan of Thriller on Thriller, and we weren't a fan of Dirt on Dirt.
Yeah.
And I'm finding that title tracks just really aren't doing it.
They're either.
I really did not like this song.
It's not the best song in the album, but I don't think it's one of the worst. I thought it has a good groove. The drum beat is another one of
I think maybe I have higher expectations because it's the title track.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, wow, it's not a good song.
Yeah.
And to sandwich it in between "Give It Away" and Under
the Bridge, yeah.
Right.
It's kind of tough to live up to that.
Yeah.
I just didn't do it.
But, I can understand some positives. The chorus I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah.
The rap parts weren't really impressive, and I thought it could have been a little bit grander, to be the title track. But not the worst track, but it has its merits.
Yeah.
But then Under the Bridge.
Under the Bridge. I mean,
classic.
This is probably another song that people think of first when they hear the Chili Peppers.
Yep.
The lyrics are so meaningful. It's about a dark time in Anthony Kiedis' life about being addicted to drugs and it's just this is their ballad. This is their memorable ballad. I love this song. I know, but this one's overplayed too.
Oh, great.
But it's a standout on the album for sure. And then after that, "Naked in the Rain." This is one of my personal favorite songs on the album. I love it when that. This is another one where that drum beat starts. We're getting started here. Great song. Bass solo too.
Yeah, I thought it had a very.
You talked about earlier.
I did. I thought it had a very good chorus, and I thought it had a really cool bass solo.
Yeah.
I mean, with Flea, I mean, you could almost with Flea, you could almost say every song's a bass solo because he's got such a prominent part in all of these songs, and in the bass, they're such a bass-driven band. But this one, he legit has like he's ripping, an Eddie Van Halen on guitar, but he's playing bass.
Yeah.
So I thought it was a good song.
Yeah.
It was a very good song.
Love it. Tom?
No, I agree. I really liked how present the bass playing was, and especially over the whole album.
Yeah.
He really shines across the entire thing.
Yeah.
Even separately, they all have their kind of good characteristics, and then they kind of double it up when they all combine on a track that. Not one of the biggest standout tracks on the entire thing. I thought it was kind of safe in terms of songwriting, but I put it on and say like, oh, it's a good track.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it. But I think the album starts to take a bit of a turn after "Naked in the Rain." I was not a huge fan of Apache Rose Peacock. It was just a little too kind of laid back and like, oh, I'm doing this now, I'm doing over this. It wasn't very focused. I understand that, the lyrical content is a bit, powerful or, has that kind of context to it, but Not my track.
I actually wrote that the lyrics were the best part.
Yeah.
Just because they were kind of cool. New Orleans, like talking about, it was almost like he went on a trip there and like took notes of what he saw. Like that's what it kind of reminded me of, which
Like
was
a
cool.
field trip.
New Orleans is one of my favorite places to go. I've been there twice. So when he starts talking about that and you start kind of connecting with some of the things he's saying, you're like, oh, that's really cool. But I really wrote musically, it was familiar.
Yeah,
it was
that's a great
kind
putting
of
it.
just.
There's a lot of that on the album for sure. Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
the same kind of sound and the same kind of song. And that's personally, if it wasn't for the lyrics, I would have said if the album ended at 12, I'd be happy. Naked in the Rain. I liked the lyrics, so I would extend to 13 and say if the album ended at 13 with Apache Rose Peacock, I'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
It's after this point that I have to agree with you. The album is downhill.
Yeah, especially with an album this kind of length, I see it in like 3 legs almost, where you have that kind of beginning intro part that kind of ends maybe around like Suck My Kiss maybe, and then you have that middle section that's just bangers and classics for me, and then that kind of end section which was a little unfocused but still has its merits, and I kind of enjoy it, but yeah, Apache Rose Peacock just did not do it for me.
Yeah. And that one, along with, what was the other one we talked about earlier? Righteous and the Wicked. Those two were probably like, I don't want to say throwaways, but they would have, maybe would have been great on another album. Like, you didn't have to squeeze so much onto this.
Or maybe if they spent some more time and kind of focused a bit more, they could have had a better outcome, but...
Yeah.
All right,
Key tracks.
Let's hear some favorites. My favorite, personally, was Breaking the Girl.
Yeah.
I love that track. The way I think that's a masterclass in songwriting for me personally. The way the way it swells up and just continues to build and just continues to.
Gotta love a good swell up.
Oh, you know me. And the way it kind of cascades down with that breakdown, I really enjoyed that. And one of their classics.
That is a great song. Mine is Give It Away. I mean, when I think of the Chili Peppers, I think of this song. I'll never get tired of this song. I love how it sits in the album with that intro leading in from the previous song, like I mentioned. That's big for me. So Give It Away for sure.
Yeah, Mellowship, Slinky, and B major.
Yeah,
I'm a big funk like I like that funk. I like blues. I like all these different kind of things, and that just gave such a Mothership Connection, P-Funk kind of homage to that album that when I heard that song, it was the first thing I thought of, and then I read the title and I was like, wait a minute, this is like so spot on to. Just a great song.
Yeah, definitely
for sure.
What was your least favorite, Mike?
Least favorite title track. Yep.
Okay.
I just wasn't a fan. I thought the vocals were very The guitar and drums, that was okay to start, but I just didn't think it was a great song. I just kills it.
My least favorite was If You Have to Ask, which is surprising because it's right at the beginning of the album. It's the second track, but I don't know. The ideas that it was going for and the fact that it sounded so similar to the first track, but it wasn't as, defined or pronounced as, that kind of burst of energy that the Power of Equality was. The lyrics or the vocal performance was a little laid back and kind of lazy almost.
Yeah.
It just wasn't for me.
Makes sense. Mine's Sir Psycho Sexy.
That's
I don't need that song. I don't need it because they've already proven their funk worth, their rock worth, and then to throw an 8-minute song that kind of drags, especially the ending of that song, it just drags. I don't need it. I think that's the best way.
It's kind of funny. I didn't even acknowledge the last 4 songs. In this conversation of best sleeper and last. Because those last 4 songs to me almost just didn't exist.
They're like worse than last.
They just didn't exist for me. Like I just could have done without them.
Yeah. Dark Horse songs. Again, I have 3. I can't just pick one.
3?
I have 3.
Wow.
Yeah.
Joseph.
So
Dark Horse song is the second half of the album.
Yeah. That's the whole thing. No, Naked in the Rain and Greeting Song are 2 songs that you don't know of that are worth a listen. But another one is Mellowship, Slinky, and B major. It's one of my favorite songs on the track. But for me, I think this is a masterclass in the musicianship, instrumentals and things like that. It's a great. If you're like a music geek, you're going to gravitate towards this song more than say "Suck My Kiss" or "Give It Away," and I appreciate that. So, "Naked in the Rain," Greeting Song, Mellowship, Slinky, in B major, give those tracks a listen.
That's a big ass horse.
I guess so.
That is.
The Trojan horse right there. They're on the side. It's not much of a sleeper, but Breaking the Girl. I say sleeper for Dark Horse for the simple reason of it's not your typical Chili Peppers like funk style. It's a little more chord driven, a little more melodic in the sense of it's kind of like you're like we said earlier, like a pop kind of a song. But they do throw the 3/4 timing in, so they're like, hey, by the way, we're going to screw with you a little bit, so you can't quite figure it out. And the lyrics are great, the vocals are great. He sings so well on it. It's one of their only songs on the album that's not bass driven, which I thought was pretty cool, you know.
Yep.
And it's just Breaking the Girl is just one of my favorite Chili Pepper songs. Period. Just so good.
It's a great song for sure. Yeah.
My sleeper was also Mellow Slinky in B major for the same reasons everyone said. We'll sum it up. I really like the intro, kind of very tight, linked in with all the other instruments. Kind of funny lyrics, kind of off kilter style that they're really going for. Great track.
Cool. All right, let's rate it. So I'm biased. I said it's a sentimental album for me. I'm giving it a 4.5. It's one of my favorite albums of all time.
Yeah.
I'll never get sick of this album. I can listen to it from beginning to end. It's another one of those where I listen to one song and I hear the next one starting in my head because I listen to it as an album. I do agree that it is long. I don't know where to cut. So that's why I didn't give it a 5. You know, I docked it to 0.5 because it is long. But 4.5 because it is just a drummer's joy, a musician's joy.
Nice.
Good shit.
I gave it a 3.5. You know, great album. You know, a lot of their big classics. You got Give It Away, Under the Bridge, Breaking the Girl. There's a lot going on. And you got songs like Power of Equality and then Mellow Slinky that are just great tunes. It got to be a little monotonous after a while. Some of the song kind of blends into one another. And then I think from like that, somewhere in that 13, 14 just could have been non-existent. And I think the album would have maybe even bumped up to a 4 at that point. I just feel like they threw some songs in there that just didn't need to be there.
Yeah.
Which that's what killed it for me, you know. So, yeah.
You pretty much said exactly what I was going to say, and my score too. So 3.5.
Okay.
Yeah, bit too long, but you have all the classics on there. So such good performances from everyone on most of the tracks. It can be inconsistent at times. There's some really good flow kind of from one track to another, and there's some really abrupt kind of tough flow from one track to another that, you know, doesn't land too well for me. I was happy to see how much attention to detail like percussion had. I'm always a big fan of when that can be as intricate and different as it usually is. And so I like that. But again, almost like filler tracks towards the end.
Yeah.
It just kind of seemed like they were kind of stretching it out a little bit. But, you know, you got the classics. You've got really good songwriting performances. 3.5.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Sounds good. Let's rate the beer.
I gave this beer,
Tröegs.
Mad Elf, 2.5. So dead center. I thought it had, for some of the kind of unconventional flavors that you would think of with the chocolate and the cherry and the cinnamon and the everything else that they threw, honey, that could be kind of an interesting combo. But I thought the flavor wasn't bad. The 11% is a little tough, especially if you're just trying to casually drink.
Yeah.
And the flavor, you know, it's, I guess the word is pronounced.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So you're not sitting there throwing back a 6-pack. You know, you're drinking 1 or 2 and you're calling it a night. So, you know, middle of the road, it's a seasonal thing. I'd grab a 6-pack every year just to have it and try it and share it and go from there. But 2.5.
Yeah. I actually gave it a 2. I wasn't a big fan of it. I agree that the flavors are pronounced.
Yeah.
And so if you're into... I will say they did the flavors well. Like you can taste everything. With their advertising, you taste it. But not into the cherry. It also doesn't sit that well. So like, you know, I stopped drinking it after a while we're talking about the album, and I took another sip, and it's hard. I can't even. It doesn't sip as well later on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has that syrupy kind of.
Yeah, I can.
You know,
get
so
that.
if you're going to drink it, you got to drink it fast. However, the 11% is tough to do that with.
Yeah.
So, you know, good attempt, good flavor if you're into that. But for me, it's a 2.
Yeah, I gave it about a 3.
About a 3.
Exactly a 3. I actually enjoyed the flavor quite a lot. For what they were going for, it makes sense. I thought some of the inclusions were a little interesting, like with the honey that kind of goes with the chocolate and the cherry. But yeah, no, what you're getting, what you see is what you get basically from this. But you know, the 11% is a bit tough. You know,
Oh, yeah.
I also didn't finish it. You know, but you know, for what you're getting, you got the nice layering in between the flavors. I was actually surprised right off the bat with how good the flavoring was.
Yeah.
But you know, like Joe said, after time, it doesn't really taste the same after like another sip if you let it sit for a few minutes. So I give it about a 3. So I enjoyed it.
All right, cool.
All right. So shout them out. Red Hot Chili Peppers. They're just chili peppers on Instagram. Check them out. RedHotChiliPeppers.com, I believe.
Tröegs.com is their
you have to spell
website. Tröegs.
With an
Tröegs.
umlaut over the O, right?
Well, not
Ooh.
when you're typing it.
Well, right.
And then Tröegs Beer on Instagram.
Uh-huh.
Facebook, I'm going to assume it's just Tröegs or Tröegs Beer
Yeah.
again, brewery.
Yeah.
Hershey, Pennsylvania. So interesting. I'd be curious to find out if they actually use the Hershey chocolate or not.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Kind of a cool overlap. So if anyone knows, please
Yeah,
let us know.
Let us
'cause,
know.
we'd be interested in knowing that. But otherwise, overall, not a bad beer.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
cool. Episode 13.
13, and
Now
it's
it
a
is.
great one because
Yes.
we are entering into the holiday season. So,
tis.
folks, we have a very special treat for you next episode. We're not going to be talking about an album. We are going to be taking songs that you have sent us. Remember, in the past, we asked you to send us your favorite holiday songs, mixing it with songs that we've contributed. We're going to be making a go-to holiday song playlist and reviewing that, and we're going to try and get down to the bottom of what song is the most holiday bop
Yes.
there is out there, and we're calling it the a Hoppy Boppy Christmas special.
Aw.
So we hope you join us next week, and we got to be drinking something. So we are going to be drinking eggnog.
Yes.
But each of us, we're going to be bringing our favorite nip to mix with the eggnog.
Rum.
Yes.
Yeah, of rum. So we'll be sipping on that, talking about some good old Christmas holiday songs by the 𝙎𝙚𝙚.
Yep.
We'll put the fake one up on Netflix, maybe on the TV.
We'll roast some chestnuts on an
Do
open
that.
fire.
Yes, we will. Yep.
Do everything.
Jingle all the way.
Yep. Jingle my bells.
So stay tuned for that next week. It's going to be a lot of fun. A Hoppy Boppy Christmas special. But be sure to follow us on Instagram and on Facebook, Hops and Bops Podcast, streaming on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and YouTube. This has been great. 2020 is nearing an end, so stay with us rest of the year and next year. So for Mike and Tom, I'm Joe. We'll see you next week.
Peace.